Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Thursday, July 30th. We've been tracking a tropical system for the past several days. It has now reached tropical storm status. It is Tropical Storm Isaias, the ninth named storm of the still relatively young 2020 Atlantic Basin tropical season. We've had a record number of storms for so early in the season. Again, we are now at the ninth storm, the ice storm Isaias, and it pounded Puerto Rico in the overnight hours. That's this island right here. Notice a much more symmetrical look to it compared to yesterday morning, as it is becoming better and better organized. Maximum sustained winds now at 60 miles per hour, moving to the northwest at 20 miles per hour. This is the island of Hispaniola with Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and it will interact with that island throughout the day today into tonight, and this will be very interesting to monitor what happens here, because there is some mountainous terrain on this island, even peaks over 10,000 feet. High terrain over Hispaniola tends to kind of disrupt this overall circulation pattern of a tropical system. So indeed it could certainly limit its potential for intensification over the next 12 to 24 hours or so, maybe even cause some weakening. That certainly has happened many times in the past. So the interaction with this particular island here will be crucial. It's also interesting to note that sometimes the circulation center tends to shift position from maybe the southwest to the northeast in a particular tropical cyclone when it interacts with this particular island. So we'll have to wait and see how it evolves over the next 12 to 24 hours or so, for two reasons. One, to see what the magnitude is once it is done with the interaction with that island, and two, where exactly that low-level circulation center sets up. It could kind of jog to the north here, and that could have a bigger impact, let's say, down the road in the Bahamas and Florida. As it stands right now, it looks like a significant impact is likely in the Bahama Island chain this weekend, as well as Florida. Right now, the odds tend to favor the east coast of Florida being closer to where the center of this system moves, but it's still a little too early to pinpoint that. One thing to note, a lot of water vapor, a lot of moisture is tied in with this system, so it'll produce some significant rainfall amounts over Hispaniola, then likely over the Bahamas and Florida over the upcoming weekend. So here it is, the ninth tropical storm of the season. Well, in terms of water vapor, let's take a look at this tool from the CIMSS University of Wisconsin website. It's labeled as total precipitable water. It's really a measure of the water vapor in the atmosphere, and the highest amounts show up in red and yellows and orange, and here it is, big blob of high moisture content associated with Tropical Storm Isaias. In other words, don't be too focused on exact location of the center. It's a large storm and it has a lot of available moisture with it, so it'll produce heavy rainfall whether or not the center goes over a particular point. Again, this is Puerto Rico. It was pounded overnight with some heavy rainfall, and now it is encountering the island of Hispaniola. Again, mountainous terrain on that particular island with peaks over 10,000 feet. Often has a limiting impact, a limited effect on intensification for a tropical system. So it could weaken over the next 12 to 24 hours. Certainly its chances for intensification in the short term are limited because of the interaction with that landmass. Right now it looks like beyond that it will go towards the Bahama Islands and then perhaps the eastern side of Florida over the upcoming weekend. So right in this region right here, there could be some potential heavy rainfall, maybe some strong winds as well, depending on the intensification once it gets by Hispaniola, and indeed could very well intensify once it gets out over the more open waters of the southwestern Atlantic. Ultimately, its moisture field could indeed ride up along the eastern seaboard, causing the potentially a significant rain event from Florida all the way into the mid-Atlantic, maybe even the northeast U.S. Notice a lot of moisture out here off the west coast of Africa. That indeed is another tropical wave, and I believe that'll be an important player in the days to come, but we'll monitor that next week. For now, we're looking at the 9th tropical storm of the season. Well, here's the latest official map by NOAA's National Hurricane Center, which is based in Miami. Right now, the position right in this region right here, again, it pounded Puerto Rico overnight, will now greatly impact Haiti and the Dominican Republic. No doubt there'll be significant rainfall in that area. Now, I mentioned this yesterday. Notice here the National Hurricane Center keeps it as an S, a tropical storm, all the way along this path. Certainly that is a reasonable forecast, but it's not out of the question that once this system kind of emerges to the north and west of Hispaniola out over the relatively open waters of the southwestern Atlantic, it could intensify, perhaps reaching hurricane status by the time it encounters the Bahamas or Florida or the rest of the southeast U.S. this weekend. Again, we've talked about one important player in the ultimate path of this system will be a digging upper level trough over the south central states as it's setting up now. We'll talk about this over the next couple of minutes. It looks like it'll certainly allow for the possibility of the moisture field to ride up along the eastern seaboard, perhaps up to the mid-Atlantic region, perhaps even all the way up into northeastern part of the nation. So this is the latest official forecast track by the National Hurricane Center. Again, right now, it's about to have an encounter with Hispaniola. Well, let's now take a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly forecast maps from last night's operational run of the GFS at 6Z. And we've been talking about a developing upper level trough over the south central U.S. And here it is already as of this morning, Thursday morning, a key player here in the ultimate path. Watch what happens here over the next few days. Friday morning, situated pretty much the same area as this morning, out over centered out over Missouri and Arkansas, out in this region. Here's a reflection of 500 millibars of the tropical storm as of Friday morning. Then we go farther into time and notice not much movement by Saturday morning. Still sitting out over the south central U.S., this upper level feature. And on the east side of that trough, you have south to southwest winds aloft, and that certainly allows for the possibility that the moisture field associated with the tropical storm could ride up along the eastern seaboard, certainly to the Carolinas, maybe even all the way up into the mid-Atlantic and northeast U.S. We go ahead a little bit farther in time, and here we go. Even by Sunday morning, this upper level trough still situated, kind of hanging back, almost becomes a stationary upper level feature here. This is now Sunday morning. And notice this morning it was already out in this region right here, so it moves very little in terms of its progression to the east over the next several days. And again, that allows for the possibility that this system will impact first the Bahamas and Florida, and then much of the eastern seaboard during the early part of next week. Well, let's now take a look at the surface forecast maps from last night's 6Z GFS model run. Starting off the day relatively rain-free in the mid-Atlantic region. Another day with 90-plus degrees for high temperatures. But the big news there is that once we get into the end of the week, tomorrow, Friday, and the weekend, it looks like high temperatures will be confined to the 80s. We kind of evolve into a wetter pattern, of course largely dependent on the movement of the tropical storm early next week. But regardless, it looks like the 80s will be the high temperature area, mid to upper 80s on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe Monday as well. And that's after many, many days of 90s in the month of July, which ends tomorrow. Let's now push forward here. We have a weak frontal system that will just kind of meander around the mid-Atlantic region over the next few days, keeping it unsettled. There can be some isolated showers and thunderstorms this afternoon, maybe a little bit more numerous scattered showers and thunderstorms tonight, tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday, all with a meandering frontal system. And again, a little bit cooler mid 80s for highs, even in D.C. on Friday, and perhaps mid to upper 80s Saturday, Sunday, and Monday as well. Here's the beginning signs of that tropical storm headed towards the Bahamas by the early part of the weekend. Here we are now on Saturday morning, and here is Isaias. Again, there's certainly an outside chance that once it passes by Hispaniola, it could intensify into a hurricane in this particular position here in the relatively open waters of the southwestern Atlantic. That odds may be a little bit against that, but it certainly is within the realm of possibility that this becomes a hurricane by the time it impacts the Bahamas and Florida over the upcoming weekend. And then we've talked about that upper level trough sitting over and the south central states. That will allow for the possibility that the moisture field associated with this tropical system will ride up along the eastern seaboard, perhaps all the way north into the mid-Atlantic and northeast U.S. Well, let's wrap up with NOAA's forecast map of total precipitation over the next 7 days. This goes from this morning, Thursday morning, all the way to next Thursday morning. And notice this swath of heavy rainfall all the way up into the northeast U.S., not totally dependent, but largely dependent on the movement of Tropical Storm Isaias. Again, it could turn out to be a significant rain event, not only in Florida and the southeastern U.S., but perhaps all the way up into the mid-Atlantic and northeast U.S., which would occur during the early part of next week. So a lot going on. Stay tuned to PerspectiveWeather.com for updates later today. That's it for now. I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.